Right, hello and hi everybody and welcome to the San Francisco Independent Short Film Festival. I'm Ian Bignell from Festival Formula and today we'll be speaking to some of the filmmakers featured in Transitions Part 1. And firstly, I'd just like to mention the films that couldn't make it today. I think it's just one, which is Leaf, which is a one-shot short of a chance encounter of two women on the way they use stories to direct their lives. It's a really fun and interesting cut into how people live their lives and how people also change their lives and maybe make fictional elements to their lives to make their lives more exciting and better. But alas, they can't make it, but everyone else is here and we're going to get talking to them straight away. So what I'd like everyone to do individually is just introduce themselves very quickly with the name and their film and the role on the film so everyone knows who everybody is. So let's start with Manoj at the top and we'll work our way around.
Hi, my name is Manoj Tiwari. I'm the director, producer, whatever, all of those roles and groomer of Let Me Flow. And this is our family affair, and that's what I'm representing.
Awesome. And Lindsay?
Hi, I'm Lindsay Mullen, and my film is Loose Ends, and I am the actress, the writer, and the producer.
Awesome. And Elisa?
Hi, I'm Elisa Rallo-Bennett, and I'm the director of The Wedding, which was written by Lydia Snapper and Carly. My God, her name just went out of my head, but she did some additional writing. And the film is just a very young, fresh look at why do we get married? And it's a lot of fun and different perspectives, but it's a lot of fun from kind of 20-something-year-old's perspective.
Mm-hmm. And Lucas?
Hi, I'm Lucas Boscobris in French. I'm the director of OCD. And I guess that's it.
That's fine. It's exactly what it is.
Sorry, I'm a little bit stressed.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Look, there's no trick questions. There's no wrong answers in this room. Abby.
You know.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Abby Pierce. I co-wrote Eat Your Heart Out with Julia Lederer, as well as acted in it and directed it.
Awesome. And Mitu?
Yeah, I'm Mitu Tiwari Raphael. I am the actor, screenplay, as well as the original playwright for Let Me Flow.
Fantastic. Well, welcome one and all. I thought we'd start off with a really nice, simple question, an icebreaker question, just to get everyone in the mood and get the juices flowing. So I thought I'd just throw out a random question. If you could work with anyone in the film industry, who would that be? Big questions here.
We can only say one name, or
yeah, because I want to make it as complicated as I can. I don't want you to only name one, because if you can name five, it'll be too easy.
Wow.
Go on, Meg.
Martin Scorsese.
Just go with the big hits straight away.
Yeah, he's my guy.
So I have sort of a diplomatic but really true answer. I would love to work with any of you that are on screen right now, because I feel like that's where I would be able to really understand the knit and grit of, what goes into making cinema, especially independent cinema. And then I'll be big after that.
Oh, that's a nice answer. You can stay mid.
Very diplomatic answer.
That's a very good answer. I would like to say David Fincher.
Oh, sure.
I mean, yeah, we're heavy hitters here. But yeah, I mean, we're shoot for the stars, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I would probably choose David Lynch, although I would be super scared to talk to him at the same time. Yeah. Because I'd be scared of saying the wrong thing, right? Abby, who would you choose?
Just the person that's coming to mind right this moment is Miranda July, mostly because I'd love to see what her energy is on set. I think she's a very interesting, quirky person, and I think that she kind of exudes art, whatever she's doing, and so I'd be very fascinated to see how she moves through a set.
Nice. And Lucas, do you have a...
Oh, it's really, really hard. I would like to say maybe Michael Mann, because I think now we don't talk very much about this man, but he is maybe one of the most important director of all the time, and every movie is made going further than the movie himself, more like, I don't know, many questions about life, future, everything. So I feel really concerned about this movie. So that movie. So yes, Michael Mann, for sure.
Awesome. And Lisa?
Oh my God. I really want to pick a producer that I want to work with as a director. There's so many amazing people. I actually have worked with Scorsese, but if he'd want to produce one of my films, I'd love to meet up with him again. Yeah, I mean, there's just...
I always love questions
That's a
like
tough
this.
question. There's like a long list of people.
I know. And I'm kind of being a little bit cruel because it's kind of like when you get asked what your favorite film is, it depends on what the weather is and, you know, what you saw last night. And, you know, like one day I'll say, oh, it's The Crow's my favorite film. And then the next day I'll be like, oh, actually, The 400 Blows by Francois Truffaut is my favorite film. And it just goes from one day to the next. So it's one of those awkward questions where there's no right answer. But hey, we can all have aspirations, right?
I mean, my first thought was a lot of the people I want to work with are dead already. So
I was thinking.
and I was like, that's not a good answer.
Yeah, I know, but maybe we should do like a dead list one day. But this is going into like a different Q&A now, isn't it? So it's kind of like morphing into something else. Right. So I'm going to start with OCD because OCD I really enjoy it because actually I have a little bit of OCD myself. It's not like a big problem for me where I have to go to like a doctor and I have to have myself checked over and evaluated, but what your film demonstrates is something that I've witnessed with my dad, especially for my whole life, and I think it stems from a point when he was broken into his house when before I was born, and he is one of these people that wants to check everything's locked, like, and he'll check it, triple check it, triple check it. And I think I've been watching him throughout my whole life, and I kind of feel like I've inherited some of that anxiety along the way. And I'm constantly, when I was watching this film, I was like, oh, this is a little bit of a reflection of myself, because I can understand the tics of having to go to every door handle to check everything, and then get in a car and go, wait, did I check that? And there'll be something that I haven't actually switched on for years, or something ridiculous like that. And this kind of debilitating process of not being able to leave. And I like the fact that you've made a film that is like an itch that you can't quite scratch. You can never get the spot that you want to hit. What was the origins for your film? Because there's obviously going to be a lot of people out there that are going to resonate with what you've made.
The origin of the film, first of all, thank you for your review. It's really nice. The origin is just my own experience with OCD. What there is in the movie is what I live every day and what I lived all the time. I check. I go in the street, I walk, I go back to my house, studio, and I check everything. My kitchen, my door, my window. Even when I'm in the train, one day I came back to my apartment 3 stations from my city, and because I was in crisis of anxiety, and it's really hard every day. And I made this movie. It was because it was a little bit cathartic, I think, and I would like to be very, very close for my own experience and say to myself, you see, it's ridiculous. You close everything, but how can you be sure of it? And I try to feel more secure with this film, to say everything is okay all the time. It's automatic. You close everything all the time. But it was good for a moment. But now, with the pandemic, etc., my anxiety came back a lot, and so now I'll say it again. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I think that must be quite hard to live with when you're stuck in, and it's just, I can only imagine, because it's one of those things that I think where OCD is something people talk about, and I think people say they have OCD in a very casual kind of way, but when you really suffer from it, it's something that I don't think people really understand enough, that it's really debilitating. Just day-to-day things that people take for granted, it's just something that you can't get ahead and do, because you've got this mental block of like, I haven't done this. It's part of the process. It's almost like you're doing a checklist, but you're not checking everything off because you're constantly rubbing it back out to go back and check again. Then it's almost like you're starting a fresh list every single time and second guessing yourself. So it's super, super hard. It resonated with me because everything about it, because it was shot in black and white as well. And that kind of like that itchy, horrible feeling you get where you just can't get yourself away from the shackles. So I was really, really, really impressed with what you've done in such a short space of time. And then obviously the ending of the short, where he's obviously left his keys on the side, and it's become such a distraction in the end that actually the debilitating part of it is he's locked himself out. It's almost ludicrous how that's happened. I hope that hasn't happened to you, of course. And
It happened.
oh, he has. Oh my! So it is like basically a true story. Wow.
Yeah, it's a true story. It's my story, and I think it's the story of many people, and they don't say it every day. They don't want to say it because it's so ridiculous, and many people can't understand it. But many people live it every day.
I think it's the easiest thing to do if your mind isn't focused on what you're supposed to be doing, because you're distracting yourself from the main thing. So I can kind of understand how it can happen, because I can, well, it's basically because I can imagine myself doing it. I'm the sort of person that will do something as stupid as that. But then when you think about it, it's such a simple thing to do. But then if you've got so many other things blocking your path, it must be quite easy just to miss the whole point sometimes.
Yes, I agree. And I don't know what I would like to say. I'm sorry.
No. Honestly, you've answered everything brilliantly, and thank you for making a really good film. Because I watch hundreds of films. I haven't seen any that have hit OCD on the head quite as well as what you've made. So congratulations on making something really, really good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was really scared about the direction, and I was really scared because I think at the end, and if people didn't get it, don't understand the movie, don't understand the experience, and it was my first. I was very scared about that, and I'm really happy you understand it and feel it like I feel it every day.
No, it's honestly, you've made a really good film, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people out there, because I think a lot of people to some degree have some form of OCD, even if it's not like maybe it's heightened as others, but everyone's got a place for something, everything's got a home for something, and if something breaks that cycle, it can kind of knock you out of sync. So I think it's totally relatable on so many different levels. Right, let's move on to Lindsay with Loose Ends. So you are the actress, you produced this, you wrote this.
Did not direct it though. Yeah.
Sorry, not directed, yes. And you have made a really interesting film because it's on one hand mental health and exploring the depression that people can go through. And I stick my hand up again here. I don't want to relate to every film. It sounds like I'm a broken person, but I think a lot of people can relate to your film in terms of having a separation that's not something that you are responsible for, and being still in love with somebody and not being able to connect with that anymore. It's kind of like it is a disability as well in its own right, because you feel not whole and complete. So you've made something that I thought was really interesting, because on one hand, it's a very dark subject matter.
Heartbreak. Oh yeah.
And then on the other hand, it's got comedy elements in it as well, because some of the situations you're in is quite weird, to say the least, to be dressed in somebody else's clothes in their apartment. But I want to know, did it start out in your mind when you wrote it to be a comedy? And is there any previous experiences where this story may have come from?
Did I break into my ex-boyfriend's apartment? No.
Sure, no judgment here.
No judgment. Safe space. No, I come from a comedy background, and I'm very much typecast in that, so I don't get to stretch my dramatic muscles as much as I'd like to. So I wanted to write something from the heart after going through a devastating breakup. But then I couldn't help but add a little bit of comedy to it. Also, if you're doing a story about someone who's that heartbroken, if there isn't moments of humor, they just become a sad sack, and then the audience is like, come on, get over it, we've all been through a breakup, pull yourself together. So I needed to have humanizing, funny elements to the story. I'm forgetting your question. Did you ask me why I made the movie?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if there was any previous experiences and why, and if you did, why you wanted to highlight that.
Yes, right. Okay, well, here's the thing: is my breakup was obviously not my choice, and one of the things that I find so upsetting in a breakup of a long-term relationship is that you sometimes don't get the closure you want. There's sometimes you don't even get the ending you think something that long and deep deserves. Sometimes the other person just leaves. And I think for this character, they were dropping off their stuff and they're still hopelessly in love with someone. And when you go back into the space you shared with someone, there's so many memories. And I think it's a person who doesn't want to let go. And I think in a breakup, especially mine, a lot of it is loving the idea of what you had with somebody and romancing that and nurturing that even after somebody's left and people don't want to move on. So I thought, well, if he's not going to give me closure in real life, I'll make a short film and give myself.
It was like a cathartic short to get you to get through your own process.
Yeah. So, but the difference is like I lived with that person, so it was never a thing of going to somebody else's apartment and putting on their clothes. I didn't put on my ex-boyfriend's clothes.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. But there was, I mean, I think, you know, the idea too of having the roommate catch her in the act of that is also an interesting dynamic, because I also thought it was very interesting the dynamics I had through my 20s where I would date a guy and he'd have a roommate and you sort of end up having a weird either they're annoyed by you because you're always in the space and not paying rent, you're always in their bathroom, so there's a weird tension, and it's a relationship I've never seen explored on film.
No, I love the fact that you make a really interesting dynamic on there, and that sort of like, I think you utter it in the film where you say like, actually maybe everything's going to be okay and he is going to come back, and that kind of like that weirdness of like still thinking things are going to be all right, but actually you just haven't allowed yourself to move on and actually push forward and leave the past. You're still living in the past. You're still living in themes that are long gone and long set sail. I think the added bonus of not having the ex-boyfriend in your film was, and actually just meeting the roommate was a really interesting choice, because as you just highlighted, it's kind of like you're kind of like speaking to him third hand, if that makes sense, you know, in terms of like it's not direct experiences that you've had, but you still had experiences.
And the other thing with that choice is a roommate sees your relationship from a different angle. They hear the fights through the wall. They hear you have sex through the wall. They are a objective party in a way that can go, you weren't as great together as you think you were. So like I think when we have those like those blinders on, when we have rose-colored glasses about the past, sometimes it's nice to have this outside perspective go, you know, it's over. And sometimes and I had friends and people who were on the outside go, it's over. You need to let that go, right? So that's why I thought it was interesting to have someone not emotionally in the thick of it.
Nice. And also, I need to ask you, you got an amazing, fluffy, three-legged cat. I need to know who owns that amazing cat.
The director owns a cat named Gus, who is in the credits. He played himself. And he's three-legged, and he's not trained. He doesn't listen. He's a cat. And I remember we all said, let's try and get him to see you. You come into the apartment and you see the old cat, and maybe the cat will listen and come towards you. And I just remember people off to the side hoping this cat would do the right thing, and it wouldn't listen because it's a cat. And then finally we went, fine, one last time, let's see if the cat goes up to Lindsay. let's see. And then all of a sudden the cat just like decided to visit me, and we had a moment. And I remember while being in the moment with the cat thinking in actor brain, it's fucking working, thank God. I remember hearing all the crew off to the side going, the cat is acting. So
never work with animals, never work with children. I think is the classic phrase in the industry. And if you do, you're very, very brave, because everything can go wrong. Well done on making an awesome, fun, in the moment kind of film. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Abby, Eat Your Heart Out. I really liked your film. It's really interesting play on words and the idea of how love is represented in terms of giving your heart to someone in that metaphoric way, in terms of saying, I'm in love with you, I'm going to give you my heart, and having that as like a transactional swap is a beautiful play on words in terms of like saying, this is ownership. I have ownership of you, of your heart, and actually this idea of burying it. Where did the idea kind of splitting the heart up and almost burying it in? It's like quite a morbid idea, but it works really well.
Yeah, I co-wrote it with Julia Lederer, who's a playwright, and she's incredible with words. And I had met her originally because I acted in a play of hers, and we wanted to make an adult fairy tale with a bit of a macabre twist. So there's lots of blood, obviously, but in general, it's quite lighthearted and a little comedic. And I think that we were looking to, in 10, 12 minutes, be able to go on an entire journey where it felt like reading a children's book, but for adults. And so that's why we did lots of wide shots. We put a lot of energy into the production design, incorporated a lot of surrealist art. And we just took the metaphor of giving your heart away or breaking your heart, and we just took it super literally in a world where everybody just rips their heart out of their chest and gives it to somebody else. And so it's about a woman trying to retrieve her heart, but her ex had cut it up and sprinkled it around the city.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the fairy tale aspects of it, because it's the one thing I spotted straight away, because the grade is so beautiful on it. It kind of really lifts it into like an ethereal sense. Was there any emotion attached in the writing process to be able to want to write something about this, or was it literally just an idea of playing on words and seeing what came out at the end of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that all breakups are great catalysts, as we just heard from Lindsay. And so it was about not just resolving unresolved feelings, obviously, but being able to also address them in a way that felt clean, tidy. Again, that's why we were visiting the fairy tale element. That's why we also have a narrator giving us that's what starts off as facts about the heart, because we wanted it to also feel like you were watching an episode of Planet Earth, so that it could almost be like a tutorial on how to heal a broken heart.
I'd pay good money to listen to David Attenborough like narrate through the different parts of the heart and how it relates to love. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a great actor named Graham Buckle to become our narrator. So we were very lucky with him. He has this very godlike, deep, long-time smoker voice, which was pretty gorgeous.
Yeah. And whereabouts was it shot? Because you have some beautiful locations there. It was really pretty short.
Thank you. It was shot almost all entirely in one building in Chicago. I had renovated a coffin factory a couple of years before, and I built a house. So that's the first location. And then the stairs are that stairwell. And then the third floor lived an artist that lives on the third floor. And then across the street was the cemetery. And so some of those kind of aerial shots were actually from the roof of the cemetery across the street. So we kept it fairly local. Everything was shot in 2 days, and we got very lucky with lots of free locations because I lived there.
Was it pre-lockdown or was it during lockdown it was shot?
Oh, this was about 1.5 years ago.
Oh, okay, cool. So back in the time when we could hug people and actually have lives.
Remember that? No.
Oh man, well, I was really impressed because I love visual stories, and I think the idea of taking a heart and actually having it something you can hold, and it has an emotional meaning but also physical meaning in terms of exchange, was a really pretty way of exploring love and also exploring loss as well in terms of moving on. And it's kind of heartbreaking to watch the guy having to sort of like begrudgingly give the heart back, because obviously he's still quite attached to it in a way. But well done on making a really awesome short.
Thank you.
And Elisa, the wedding, I was really interested because you have a number of different themes going on with your film. In terms of like, I felt like wanting to rename your film The Farce afterwards, because it's almost like a farce.
The what?
The Farce, like a farce on so many different levels in terms of like, you look at you look at the couple, they're getting married, and you're thinking, great, this is the best day of their life, but that's fractured. You then have the best man, and he's bricking it in the toilets, and he is obviously having his own issues by feeling inadequate. This is another thing. And then to complete the triangle, you have the younger sister, who's obviously not, well, they're both feeling like they're in each other's shadows, but no one really knows whose shadows in whose. And also the fact that she clearly isn't very happy that she's losing her sister, so it's almost like ownership as well. So, wow, you've packed a lot into your film. How did this story come about, and what was the ideas behind it to sort of flesh this wonderful, bizarre love triangle, friendship love triangle out?
It's interesting. I have a film studio, Stone Street Studios, and as part of our mission is to produce meaningful projects that touch humanity in different ways. I also have an immersive program for NYU Tisch drama, so we train their actors in among the things that we do, and we produce with and for them. So I often have some fantastic young actors. And Lydia Snapper, who is the writer, originally wrote it just as a 2-character. And I thought it was really good. She has some amazing ability with dialogue to write. And she's early 20s. And I just thought it was the insight and the things that she was grappling with was something that I've connected to several decades ahead of her. And so I asked her if she could make it larger and write the characters that she was referring to, which was the sister and the other, because I was really looking to put all of that drama together. And so we kind of developed this together, and that's how it sort of evolved in its layers, in the theme, around that theme.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a bit like of Melancholia in terms of the wedding at the beginning of that, where you just got like a room of people in the wedding, and it just didn't, no one was talking to each other properly, and there was lots of undercurrent. And it shows, because obviously the short block we're in is called Transitions. So that is moving from one place to another, getting over a previous love life, or moving on through disability, moving forward. And it's clear what you have here is you have a husband, or soon to be husband. I don't know if they were actually married at that point, but he is definitely structured where he wants to go, but it feels like everything else is being dragged around him. It's almost like he's the pivot point of it. Was that the intention, that he was kind of like, he was going to be the center and everything's all collapsed off him?
You mean the groom?
Yeah, the groom.
Yeah. I just thought that the relationship between them was so real, in that he had such a loving way of understanding with compassion a potential spouse before they even got married, who had a whole different way of dealing with things. And she was maybe even a little OCD in her own way. And it's not really clear who's running the show in that relationship, but they seem to have some sort of copacetic, although it's not really clear it's going to last either, which I really liked challenging the themes of what is marriage and why why people get married. And it's very different for each and every one of them,
I was also, I watched it, and I felt the story was almost part of a bigger bigger narrative. I don't know if that was intended, like almost like I could imagine this being a feature and having like a grander story built around it. Could you see that as well? Or was this really just a short in your own mind?
No, we would, I mean, that actually we've made quite a few shorts over time that have then become features because it's a really shows the characters and the potential story. We'd love to do a feature based on this, and maybe we should call it The Farce. Yeah.
Yeah, call it The Farce.
I think that's a great idea. That's a nice alternate title. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we get lots of films sent to us as a company, Festival Formula, and I constantly have to do like a script write up every single time we get stuff in of why we like films, we don't like films, and I often have like buzzwords and come into my head because I was a bit like watching this going, nothing's right about this scenario, nothing's works. The bride and groom aren't happy, the family's not happy, and then you got tucked away in this toilet, you got the best man who's literally like on his last ebb in terms of his whole life has failed. He feels that he's in his shadow. It's like a fake friendship. It's like everyone's kind of like outdoing each other and stabbing each other in the back. It's a very complicated story to have into a short. So when I'm watching it, I was just like, oh man, this would be a really nice feature to watch because it's almost like watching a slow motion disaster movie.
I'm going to, the writer, I know so many Carlys, and so it was like the minute I was like, oh my God, the co-writer. So when we were doing the last part of it, which was the best man in the bathroom and how he kept coming in and out, Carly Guida, who's a young writer too, helped us develop it a little bit, but it really is Lydia's script. But yeah, this would be a wonderful, it would be a wonderful feature. Lydia always says she never has time to write, and I'm always like, yes, you can write it. You can write it. She's really a talented writer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Well, I'll take credit for that then if you're going to make a feature.
Okay. Okay. We'll definitely ring you up on it. And I have to say that just the last thing is that the actors were such a participant in the development of their own characters, and they were just really wonderful to work with. I really enjoyed working with them. Yeah.
I mean, congratulations. It's a very, very good film. Right, finally, and no means least, we're on to Mitu and Manogue with Let Me Flow. Let's face it, this is one of the harder subject matters to talk about because losing a child is one of the most difficult things that any parents can go through. So I understand this was originally a play. So how was it for converting this from a play to screen for you guys?
Actually, let me start with Mitu is the original writer. She wrote the play, and after she also produced a play or did a play, that one directed it. After watching the play, I had this awakening one night, said I have to make this film because to me it was such an inspirational film. I had never made a film. I didn't know anything ABCD of filmmaking, but I said I had to make this film. So decided to convert it into, the original play was about 60 minutes, right, Mitu? So bringing it down to like 20. So first I made it, another version of it about 3 years ago, which was about over 30 minutes. I said, that's too long. So, and things weren't working out. So we had to tweak the screenplay quite a bit, actually. We did take out, because as you might have seen the film, it's a lot of dialogues, it's narration. It's mostly two people talking about their lives, right? So converting into screenplay was a challenge, but the writing was so good, I didn't have to do much except take out some of the repetitive things or things that probably we could do without, even though they were very well written. So we worked on it together, me too, and another gentleman, Frank Johnson. So we decided to convert into a shorter screenplay. So we finally came up with what you saw. I hope you saw it.
Oh, no, I have seen everyone's film.
Yes.
So with me, so you wrote the film, the screenplay or the scripts. What was the origins behind that? Is this a subject matter close to you, or is this something you've experienced? Or
yes, I have to tell you a very quick story. Some time ago, before I wrote the play, I was having a conversation with Manoj, and I was really frustrated as a theater actor not finding the right sort of roles or you know, projects to work on locally here. He was producing his or directing his fourth or fifth play, and I was getting mad at him for not giving preferential treatment to me, a family member. And then he said to me, you know, like, if you want to do good work, or if you want to do work, why don't you do it yourself? And it was like one of those moments where the light bulb goes off. I'm like, yeah, I could do this, right? I've been in theater for a long time. Maybe I could write. We'll see. So I look for work, looking for plays to sort of act or direct. And I decided to sort of write things down and see what came of it. And at that time, my own story was just at the forefront, right? It started writing itself. And initially I thought, I'm not going to do anything with this. It was so raw at the moment. But when I did write it down, it was almost like letting go of your story in some ways, right? So if you hold it so close to you, kind of let it go. So yes, the movie, the play, and then now the movie is based on my own personal story. And now that I think of it, you know, why I wrote it down, there wasn't really a purpose at that time, but now I feel like it was a story of, you know, this is my belief, and we alluded to it before, we're all sort of broken in a lot of different ways. How do you find beauty in that and courage in that? And I wanted to tell my story of triumph, right? Transition. That out of a tragedy, there was something beautiful that came out of it. So
yeah, I was, because it's such a delicate story to explore. It's almost like watching two people in the fog, and maybe one person's got the map and knows where they're going, and then the other person maybe doesn't have a map and actually has nothing, is just standing still in the fog, not looking, not wanting to look. The one thing I really took away from the film is I found that in terms of the two characters, I felt that it was like a reconnection, a slow reconnection in terms of understanding what one person's needs might be, because the male character is very strong with, this is how I'm going to deal with it, this is how I'm going to overcome this grief. And then your character has this moment where she's just like, no, I don't want to burden anyone else, I need to stop. And it's almost like a reconnection, like a rebalance. And I think that was like the main thing that I took away from it. Is that what the intention was kind of for, you know, the story?
Absolutely, yes. Because I think often, unfortunately, you see that couples that go through a tragedy like that, it certainly affects their marriage. And long term, you often see that, you know, makes sense. You know, you've gone through that those marriages or those two individuals slowly grow apart because they grieve in such different ways, right? But yes, the intention was to sort of redevelop that connection even after even after two individuals cope so differently. And it was that sort of connection that kind of leads or continues in this beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
To me, it was also show the difference in people's way of handling a tragedy or any situation. It can be any event. So because of a stereotypical way of defining people, a lot of times you expect, oh, everybody should just come together in one way or the other. In this way, the way she showed it was the attraction to me. The way she depicted male and female characters and the understanding between the two. And as you said, you know, instead of growing apart, coming together was the turning point. And that's what I thought was so well written, so well said. I was touched by the writing itself, the explanation and the thought process. That's what attracted me to make it a film. I thought that's the story worthwhile sharing.
Yeah, and obviously you got the narration of like the poem as well going through that as well,
yeah.
Which is something I felt that added structure all the way through the film to make sure, along with the talking head shots, that you always understood at each stage of the film exactly where the character's headspace is and potentially where they're going. again, I thought that was a really well constructed part of the film too. Because otherwise, if it's just a lot of loose shots, otherwise, in terms of like people just having trouble dealing with mental health and grief. But I think you stitched it together so well with the poems and so well with the headshots. I think that's actually the main reason why it works so well, because you have that inside knowledge, you know, that inside knowledge of actually how they feel. So I think it was really well constructed. So well done to you both on making something, well, very hard to watch, because obviously the emotion of living through that must have been awful. But also something absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time now. We only had half an hour, so apologies that we couldn't spend longer with you. As I say, I'd love to ask everybody another 5 or 6 questions on top of this, but unfortunately, we don't have enough time. So all I can say now is to all of you, thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking to you all, and I wish you a great festival. Thank you to the audience for watching, and we do hope you tune in to see what else the festival has to offer. And hopefully, we'll be able to see all of you at some point for realsies at a film festival, and we can have a drink and actually hug each other and have real lives again. Fingers crossed, maybe. But thank you, everybody, for your time and for your honest and candid answers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.